Onto the scope rail and the scope. The scope rail is a purpose-made Tokyo Marui scope rail for the M14. It has two big wheels, one with a long thread, one with a short thread, that you line up with two holes here and here on the side of the weapon, and as long as you've lined the first one up, the second one will go in. There we are. Now this is raised, so again you can look through your iron sights and you can see right the way through, or of course with the scope on you can use the scope and use it as a sniper rifle. Now this scope is a Bushnell 3:9 × 40 illuminated scope. It happens to be the one that was on my AK-47 Dragunov. Now the reason I moved it onto here is I've put the scope that came off my M249 onto the Dragunov. Therefore this scope has come onto here. Now the reason I needed the longer scope on here is because of the stock. With the stock in the shoulder, this scope is just at the right place to be able to see through it. On the smaller scope you had to get closer to it and the stock got in the way. Exactly the same scope that was used on my AK-47 S3D. So you can set 5 different settings of illumination for a red sight or 5 for green. Here and here you have the windage and elevation adjusters. They've got these aluminium caps on, and you have these click dials that you can adjust with your thumb and fingers, so you don't need any to write it in. One last feature, this whole top section of the M14 can come away from the stock, and it's done very easily by pulling the trigger guard down. You can then pull out the whole trigger plate, and I could now separate these two halves. There are of course wires from the battery joining the motor. You have to disconnect those. Now, the fact this happens has caused me some problems, and I'll try and get some close-up video of how this works. Basically slides in and clips shut, but this clip here isn't very strong, and I've actually been bunkered down in a woodland game, the enemy approaching, and this is caught, opened and just dropped out. This contains the magazine release, so when this drops out, your magazine drops out, you can't fire. That, I would say, is the only problem I've had with this M14. This is the whole mechanism that includes the magazine ejector, the trigger guard that locks the top of this weapon to the stock. In order to release it, you pull down on the trigger guard, which swings open, and then you pull down on all the mechanism and it all drops out, including the magazine release. This holds onto the weapon with these two hooks. So here we have the trigger and the safety mechanism. Pushes in, and it now is in position. But this is too easy to pull down and for this to drop out, especially when you're in the middle of a firefight or skirmish and you're rolling about on the ground or trying to hide. The hole in the back here of the trigger guard is supposed to be to put a rod in to pull this down. That's how hard it's supposed to be, but it's just too easy. I don't do anything about it, I'm just aware, so I make sure, I just keep checking that this piece is there. It's the only problem area I've had with this M14, as I've said. So there it is, Tokyo Marui M14, olive stock. Thanks for watching.